Today I'm going to be doing the setup for the cone figure project. The cone figure project utilizes all three of the basic forms, but it starts with a slab. You're going to need about a softball sized piece of clay. So I'm going to start by slamming it on one side so it flattens this side, and then I'm going to flip it over and flatten the other side. So once I have it in a biscuit shape, I'm going to start the slabbing process. So I'm going to take my duck hands. I've got thumbs on the bottom, fingers on the top. I'm going to be slapping it towards me. I'm going to be making sure that one side hits first so that gravity and force stretches and elongates it. So now that I've got my slab thrown, I want to keep it between a 1/2 inch and a 1/4 inch because this is going to support the whole figure. So if I go too thin, it's going to slump over or it's not going to be able to support the weight. Next, I'm going to be taking what's called a fettling knife. And this is a knife specifically made for using with clay. I'm going to wipe off the excess. And I'm going to make a triangle shape. So I'm going to cut at an angle. I cut at an angle, and I'm going to cut at the opposite angle. Then I'm going to make 2 curved cuts, one small one and one large one. I'm going to take this curved form that I just made, and I'm going to curl it around. So that it's starting to get that cone shape. Once I've made this shape, I'm going to score and slip both sides. Once I'm done scoring, I'm going to slip both sides, dabbing on the slip, not rubbing. Then I'm going to work both sides together. So I'm pushing these two together, kind of making a pinch. I'm going to smooth perpendicular from the two edges. So once I have that smoothed, now I have my cone, which is going to be the base to my cone figure. Next, I'm going to take some clay and I'm going to work that into a sphere. And you want this to be a little bit bigger than golf ball size. So now I have my ribbon tool and I have my wire loop tool, and I'm going to hollow this out. So I'm going to use the trick of putting it next to it, making sure that there's about a 1/2 inch down or less. I'm going to put my fingers at the bottom so I know how deep it needs to go. And then I'm going to twist this in there, going right up to where my fingers are. I'm going to use the wire tool to hollow out the inside. So once I have this hollowed out, I'm going to set that to the side for now. And then I'm going to do the last step for the setup. I'm going to take some clay and I'm going to make the third basic form, which is the coil. So I'm going to keep my coil about 1/2 inch thick because I want this a little bit thicker because this is going to support the head. So I'm going to take my fettling knife. I'm going to cut this to a flat edge. And like I said, it doesn't need to be very long. This is about 3 inches long. I'm going to take a little piece of clay. I'm going to cover up the hole that I used to hollow out the sphere. So I'm going to score and slip that. Once I've covered the hole in my sphere, I'm going to take my Sgraffito tool and I'm going to poke a little hole in there just so that it's able to breathe. Now I'm going to take the coil cylinder that I made and the sphere and I'm going to score and slip those together. And I'm going to wiggle this in so it gets all those little nodules stuck together and then wipe off the excess. So this is going to be the head for my cone figure. So here's my cone. Here's the stem and the head. And I'm just going to slide that in there. You can score and slip around this edge if you like to. But ultimately, this is the basic setup for the cone figure. After this, you should be adding arms. You can add feet. You can put a hood on it. You can bend this over in different ways. So essentially, you're going to be making a humanoid type figure. So you can make this into a real person that you have seen from a show, or maybe a superhero, maybe somebody from a movie, aliens, mermaids, what have you, or you can make something up on your own. And think about what details you can add to make it look more interesting. So something that you can do is you can bend the cone figure so that it's leaning forward, or maybe it's leaning to the side, maybe the arms come out. So there's a lot of different variables that you can make with this cone figure base. This is an example of a cone figure that I've done. So I started with the same cone that we see here, but I bent the cone over. The sphere that I made for the head, I turned into kind of a bone structure. And then I added a fin, a tail, and some arms and feet. So this is the cone figure project. Thank you for your time and your attention. Do more, do better.